I mean, it definitely is 100%. It was fun though. I'm
Yeah,
used to being on camera after all the work that I've done, but a live show was a whole new area to get into. So I
yeah,
definitely respect the people who do it day in and day out. We were like under a deadline. I didn't have the correct type of beaker, and so a tiny bit of the liquid came out of the beaker at the same time. So it's
yeah.
flammable, and so the flame traveled up into the beaker, which lit the liquid on fire. And like my first reaction was to drop it, and then it lit the backdrop on fire as well. Then I was like, oh, I got to get the rest of the backdrop out of the way so we don't get a bigger fire. And then it just ripped. So
Yeah.
my crew luckily had a fire extinguisher. We extinguished it. But yeah, I would say from that, safety lessons learned, always use the right tool for the job.
Well, that's funny enough. That's what you should do on the mini diggers, like pulling roots and stuff. You probably know yourself pulling roots out. Sometimes it slides it a little bit, but
Yeah.
when you feel it, you can let it go. But this time, I just sort of just went for it and just went, and did the silly thing of sticking my leg out and just quickly whipped it back in again.
I've found that the most stubborn people really tend to have common sense. And if you can speak to them in a common sense way, it makes a lot of difference.
Toolbox, Jim, we're ready for you now, mate.
Welcome to the Construction Cogs podcast, showing you the moving cogs of the construction machine. Okay, audience. Today I have my first ever guest on this podcast from across the pond. We have Rachel Housman from Ally Safety. This came about by me entering a safety video into a competition that Rachel ran. She then contacted me after to see if we can work together on some safety videos. This was when I looked a little bit deeper into what Rachel does, and I thought she'd be a really cool guest to have on to share her insights. So here we are. Thanks for giving us your time, Rachel.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on, and thanks for entering into our video contest. It was pretty cool to see what you had put together.
It was fun, actually. Yeah, I did enjoy that. It was good, and I liked the live show as well you did. That was great.
Thank you.
The Oscars.
It was kind of a experiment this first year. We didn't know what we were doing. And next year we're looking at getting an actual theater and having like a live show, which would be fun. This one was all live streamed, but there was no audience. So it would be a lot of fun with an audience.
Well, you did well for it being live as well, actually, like mistake-wise, because that's always a bit risky, isn't it?
I mean, it definitely is 100%. It was fun though. I'm
Yeah,
used to being on camera after all the work that I've done, but a live show was a whole new area to get into. So I
yeah,
definitely respect the people who do it day in and day out.
yes. Well, the work that you do, I'm glad you mentioned that. We'll get into that now. I know you haven't got a great deal of time, so let's get straight into it. What is Ally Safety? Who's it for? And what problem does it solve?
Yeah, so I created Ally Safety with the intention of being the ally of the people who are actually doing the work. So we are your ally in workplace safety, and what I strive for is to make safety better for the people doing the work. Because a lot of times, what I saw in my career as a safety professional is safety was presented in ways that was really dry and boring, or just in a way that didn't relate to people well. And so people aren't getting the lessons that they need to, and they're doing jobs that are actually very dangerous without the best training resources. So my goal is to meet people where they are, show respect for the work that they do, and provide them support when it comes to safety, rather than it feeling like safety is talking down to people, because I hate that. I feel like it's a really bad approach.
Yes, I'm glad you mentioned that. I'm going to touch on that a little bit later, actually. But so how does it work then? What do you provide? So I understand that you have subscribers, so companies can subscribe to you. What do they get when they subscribe?
Yeah, think of us like Netflix for safety videos.
Right.
So once you subscribe, you get access to our full training library, and we have like full length training topics. And then we have what I call Toolbox talks. And what we mean by Toolbox talks are short, like 3 to 7 minute video trainings that just cover one topic that you could easily watch on your phone at work, just one a day or one a week, to get a quick snapshot and keep updated on your safety training. So we have about 150 to 200 of those right now.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been busy.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, yeah. So what's it, 10 years now? 10 years in the making? this project?
Six actually,
Okay.
probably 10 from idea to execution to where we are right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, six since I actually have been making videos.
So what was the moment you realized that the safety training wasn't actually working, and
Oh,
you needed to do it differently?
yeah, I will tell you. So one of the first jobs I got out of college is I was working at a paper mill here in the US. And it was a union paper mill. So there was like a booklet we had, and it had the pay of every single role of different people in the mill. And I was sitting in a confined space training, and I specialize in what we call industrial hygiene or occupational hygiene, as what you call it. So I have a lot of chemical expertise. And we work with a lot of dangerous chemicals. And I was looking around the room, we're talking about cleaning out chemical tanks and things like this, like pretty interesting stuff where if you do it wrong, you could literally be exposed at a fatal level to chemicals. And the information was presented in a way that was so dry. And I looked around at this auditorium of about 100 people, and most of them were not paying attention. They were just zoned out. And I thought, what a huge missed opportunity here because we're talking about something that's critical to safety. And yet we're not able to engage people enough to even keep them interested. Like, this is not meeting our intended outcome. So I kind of, in my head, went through the booklet and calculated what the lost opportunity was in terms of financial. And it was huge. It was like, I can't remember exactly, but I think it was somewhere around $10,000 or something like that. Just
Wow.
yeah, pretty big
Wow.
missed opportunity because if you count in not just what people are making, but in the US, we pay medical and dental and all these different benefits. The
Yeah.
actual amount a company pays per hour per employee is pretty staggering.
Exactly. Exactly. So what do you do that's different then? I understand you add a little humor to it, a little bit more personality. Is that right?
Yeah, and I think that would be like the surface level, but I think when
Yeah.
you get down deeper to it, I don't explain things generally.
Right.
I believe in showing rather than explaining. So if
Yes.
we can actually show you what happens or goes wrong, then we do. And that cuts out like, 90% of the dialogue that you need. So if I can say, well, this is flammable and this is combustible, rather than reading people a definition, let's just light a few things on fire and show the difference.
I bet that's
That's
a bit.
fun.
I bet that's a bit risky. I've actually seen one of your bloopers actually from that. You did a chemical experiment, wasn't it? And you hadn't practiced, and it sort of explode like set a light, and you had to drop it.
Yeah, so let's talk about lessons learned. So yeah, I was demonstrating what happens when you are using a flammable gas, and I was using a beaker because if you use the correct type of beaker, you can pour out the gas and the liquid doesn't come to. But we were like under a deadline. I didn't have the correct type of beaker, and so a tiny bit of the liquid came out of the beaker at the same time. So it's
Yeah.
flammable, and so the flame traveled up into the beaker, which lit the liquid on fire. And like my first reaction was to drop it, and then it lit the backdrop on fire as well. So
Wow.
then I was like, oh, I got to get the rest of the backdrop out of the way so we don't get a bigger fire. And then it just ripped because
Yeah.
it was like this sort of polyester fabric that just disintegrated. So
Yeah.
my crew luckily had a fire extinguisher. We extinguished it. But yeah, I would say from that, safety lessons learned, always use the right tool for the job.
Well,
Practice before you
yeah.
film.
I mean, it goes
Yeah.
big. It goes larger than that. I mean, construction in particular, it's always deadlines, deadlines,
Yeah.
deadlines, deadlines, time limits. So that kind of falls into it, doesn't it? Especially when you're rushing, people make mistakes. You don't prepare properly. You don't plan properly. That's a perfect example.
Yeah, it totally is. And I actually talk about this. I do a lot of keynote speeches here in the US. And one thing I talk about is like what calls us to take risks, because taking risks can be appealing and fun. And you have to understand what risks you've taken that worked out well and what didn't. And when I take risks that don't work out well, a lot of times it's when I'm feeling pressured. So that's
Yeah.
personally something I've had to learn about myself that um, I think I make good decisions under pressure, but I cut corners and
Mm.
it's a problem. So that's like what I do now is I try to have a lot more lead time. And these experimental videos take a lot more practice than they look like. So we do actually practice before the crew gets on and make sure we have it fairly well dialed in now.
Good, good. Yeah. Well, I mean, we're all guilty with cutting corners, aren't we? If we're all guilty of doing something that makes life easier for us, even if it is cutting corners a little bit.
Yeah.
But a lot of us don't get our fingers burnt like you almost did.
Yeah. Or burn down a building. We don't want
Well,
that.
no, exactly. But
Yeah.
I think it's great. I think it's, yeah, because I've been in a room with loads of people when we've watched presentations and stuff like, and I've been sitting next to people who've been falling asleep and people just looking at their phone like that and just not tuned in. So yeah, I think it's really important. And what you said earlier about, because there's a little bit of a stigma, I think, isn't there, for attached to safety people.
Oh, yeah.
What you said earlier about not sort of preaching, that was one of my exact points that I had. Do you find yourself trying to not be preachy to people while trying to stay credible?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm not a preachy person by nature.
Yeah.
I'm a really collaborative person, more like, so it's not my default, but I'm very aware of when you kind of get on a safety soapbox and start talking to people. And there's this great line from Top Gear, if you ever have watched that show.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Love it.
Jeremy Clarkson goes, "That's something that sounds like a person with safety glasses would say."
Yes.
So we
Yes.
avoid that.
Oh, I can't believe you're into Top Gear. That's cool.
Oh, I think it is like one of the best TV shows that was ever made. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I miss it. Do you watch
Yeah.
their spin-off, the Grand Tour?
Yeah, I did. That was pretty cool. Yeah.
Cool, cool, cool. Um, but yeah, even for like neurodiverse people, or particularly those with ADHD that might struggle to retain their attention, I think it's important for them as well. Your sort of style.
100%. And I think that one of the funnier memes that I see going around all the time is like the truth about construction work is it's a bunch of ADHDers who used to get kicked out of class. And I do think that's true. And really what safety training was traditionally was training that was presented by technical people, a lot of times in a written format. And that doesn't work for people who are used to working with their hands in reality
Mm,
every single day. It's, you're used to being out there, and that's why you fall asleep when you sit down for an hour, is you're used to actually doing something. So
exactly.
we really want to respect that the people who are out there doing the work, they have probably a different way of learning, and we want to meet them where they're at and provide them the resources that they need and that will actually make their jobs better.
Exactly that. Like say, oftentimes it is delivered by people who haven't actually picked up any tools in their life or any, done any labour. But I mean, you've lived it. You've grown up with it, haven't you? So you
Yeah.
kind of know what you're talking about.
I do think that's what makes it a little bit different from my perspective, just because, like you said, I did live it. I grew up with it. I'm from a family-owned logging and excavation business. And I originally went to college for engineering, and I was going during like the economic crisis here and wasn't sure if I was in the right type of engineering. And I took a summer job planting trees, and they needed somebody to come in on the weekends and unload the big shipments of plants that they would get in. So they asked if anybody wanted to pick up extra hours, and they just needed somebody who could run a John Deere tractor with forks on the front, which
Mm.
I know how to run a tractor. So I needed the money. I raised my hand. I started working for them on the weekends. I got to know management. And when they had the safety position open, they asked me if I wanted to do it for the summer. And I did. And I switched my career to safety after that because it's like, to me, it's cool. You get to work with all different sorts of people, but you still get to learn all the cool industrial processes as well.
Yeah.
And you get to see all these really fascinating job sites. So I switched and I've been in it ever since, but really it was knowing how to drive a tractor that got me here.
I bet you still itch to get on a machine every now and again, do you? Do you
Yeah.
miss those days? Yeah.
Yeah, we actually did a video a couple years ago on preventing tractor rollovers. So that
Right.
was kind of fun. I got to go drive a tractor out in California for a while, but I go home. My home is in Montana, so if you know where Yellowstone is, that's in Montana in the
Oh,
U.S.
okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so in the mountains, and
Yeah.
my dad still has his excavators. I went home at Christmas, and
Yeah.
we were out in the equipment and the excavators and the dump trucks and that kind of stuff. So that's.
Have you ever tipped anything over?
Um, I don't want to incriminate myself. I've never tipped anything big
Right.
over.
Okay, say no
Yeah,
more.
we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I have a couple of times. I've tipped a mini digger over, almost crushed my leg.
Ooh.
Um, and I've tipped a little front loading dumper down a hole. It must have been 100 years old, and I'd only had 3 hours sleep in the week because my wife had just had a baby, and you
Oh.
had to put both feet on the brake just to stop it, and it wouldn't stop. So yeah, I went down the hole, had to be pulled out, and that
Oh.
was interesting. Yeah, but it happens. It's law of averages, isn't it?
I mean, well, not exactly law of averages, but the longer you operate, the more likely it is probably, but you could still probably get away from it. I would just say I hate that feeling of tipping.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that does help me out because anytime I feel the least bit unstable, I back off.
Yes, that's right. That is good. Well, that's funny enough. That's what you should do with the mini diggers, like pulling roots and stuff. You probably know yourself pulling roots out. Sometimes it slides it a little out a little bit, but
Yeah.
when you feel it, you can let it go. But this time, I just sort of just went for it and just yeah, just went and did the silly thing of sticking my leg out and just quickly whipped it back in again.
Yeah, I remember taking out street tree stumps in my dad's
Yeah,
excavator when I was younger, and it was kind of over a bank, and just getting the feel and not knowing exactly where you were when it was going to tip or not because I didn't know the machine well enough. That's kind of a
yes,
tricky part of operating is when you know enough to do the job, but you're not
yes,
experienced enough to really understand the machine really well.
yeah, and not go past the point of no return.
Yeah.
So let's get back to your videos. What's different between your YouTube videos and the ones that people subscribe to?
So the YouTube videos are like a good sample of what you can subscribe to, but I would say what I'm really proud about in our subscription model is some of the videos we have are really cinematic and cool.
Right.
Like I like to show the beauty of the different industrial sites we work in. I think that what we get to see on a day to day is really, really fascinating. And so just being adding more of that more finished artistic element is part of it. And then a lot of what you see on YouTube is our short form content or our toolbox talks. So some of the longer form content, like our full length training, like our full fall protection, confined space, those types of things are not on YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And do you incorporate tech into your training? I mean, we're in digital age now. What sort of tech do you use that's innovative?
Well, I think I talk a lot about tech, so it kind of depends on the topic. But
Okay.
like recently this year I've done videos on tech that you can use to prevent heat illness. So it's more about having sensors or the right clothes or the right gear. Like not all of it is highly technically advanced, but even things like
Mm.
cooling safety vests
Yeah,
or
yeah,
like a wearable sensor that will alarm when your body temperature is getting too high or when the external heat is getting too high. So things like that we like to incorporate. But yeah,
yeah.
I
I'm,
guess it
I'm,
depends
I'm-
on what kind of tech you're thinking.
yeah, I'm more in terms of like the way that you deliver or you provide the training. For example, I know I work with a guy who designs lift plans.
Okay.
As you know, most lift plans are 2D, they're on paper. If you get a book about that big that you have to flip
Yeah.
through, nobody ever reads and they just go to the back page and sign it. But he's now creating 3D lift plans. And within the plan, he'll put a QR code for each item. So you go on that QR code and that'll give you a little training video of that actual specific lift that you're doing, how to do
Very
it,
cool.
and go into detail, stuff like that. So I think in this day and age, I think that's quite important to a bit more interactive, isn't it? To get people involved and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually saw something, I think it was an advertisement for an app that was similar to that where you could do
Yeah,
your pick plan and it wasn't 3D, but you just put the information in there and it would really show you like what your range was. So it kind of simplified some of the old stuff. But
yeah,
yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
I actually saw a really cool app that we did a video on a while back, and it was managing fatigue in drivers and operators. Because, you brought up after your wife had the baby, you were on 3 hours of sleep, which led
Mm,
to an accident. And that's
mm,
really common because I think it is like something after like 14 hours or more of being awake, it starts like getting to be equivalent to having a few drinks of alcohol. And the longer it continues, the
yeah,
more drinks of alcohol it's the equivalent to.
yeah.
So there's apps that will test your mental awareness and your fatigue levels that can prevent accidents. And that's pretty cool.
I think it's great. I really do. But on the other side, I think um, it's important not to forget the people who can't use tech because I've got friends that can't even send emails. I mean, my dad, he gets a phone. He's got one of them old school phones, and he's got a little pen, and he has to press the buttons like that, and it takes him about half an hour to send a text. So I think it's important to sort of not leave those people behind as well. Don't you
Yeah,
think?
I think so too. I think that it's cool to be able to still live that way. My dad is similar, and I know people that don't have like regular email, they really don't use it at all.
Yeah.
And if you are able to live that sort of disconnected life, then I support that. Let's help
Oh,
you live that natural way.
absolutely. Oh, wouldn't it? Yeah, wouldn't it be nice to just go off grid? That'd be lovely.
Yes, it would.
Yeah, yeah. But when you deliver training, do you ever come across people that think they've seen it all?
Oh
That
yeah.
sort of, yeah.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that?
Well, I think it comes kind of naturally to me because I feel like when I got into this industry, I was, in my mid 20s and so many of the people I was working with were men that were nearly retirement age and
Yeah.
a lot of them now have retired out. So they were people who had seen a lot and who had a lot of really amazing experience and they weren't sure what value somebody like me could bring to the table. And I focused on teaching them things that they may not know. So, like in college, I learned a lot about how your body metabolizes different toxins and what the side effects are. So, how can I break down this technical information and give it to the welder so he can
Mm,
actually see what the purpose of us asking him to wear a respirator is?
mm,
And so I felt like so much of my early career was really trying to work with people with that same mindset. And I will say, not everybody can be convinced, but what has worked really well for me is talking about the why behind the how. So, why does this actually matter? Why should we care? We've got so many things to worry about on a day to day, and most people show up to work and their number one concern is getting the job done. And when you throw a bunch of safety stuff at them, it complicates it. So you really have to tell them why you're asking them to do these extra things in a way that will motivate them to get on board. Because it's rarely that I'm just going out there and I think, hey, it would look great if you guys all wore respirators today.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
always a cause like we know that repeated exposures can lead to cancer, and we want to make sure that you guys are healthy. And here's what that cancer is, and here's what the side effects are. So
yeah,
I've found that the most stubborn people really tend to have common sense. And if you can speak to them in a common sense way, it makes a lot of difference.
yes, definitely. I mean, it definitely helps if you know what you're talking about and you come across as though you know what you're talking about, because there are a lot of people out there that are kind of winging it, or they're just a lot of people. There's a lot of box tickers out there, isn't there? And you can kind of
Yeah.
tell. So that's when you kind of zone out. But yeah, I have seen it when you have people come in or when we have the briefings and some of the guys are rolling their eyes like, oh, here we go again. Got to go through this again.
Well, I do think it would be hard to be in their shoes because from what I've heard from some of the more skeptical ones is they've seen this song and dance come and go before. They'll
Yeah,
work for a company and the company maybe gets really enthusiastic about safety for a while and then it dies down, then it comes back. So it's
yeah,
this cycle over and over. And that person's there doing the same job day in and day out. And the only thing that's really changing is the requirements from time to time. And
yeah,
so, yeah,
yeah.
I think you do get cynical after a while.
Yes, I do. I do. Yeah, yeah, you do. And you get content in what you're doing, and that's dangerous.
Hmm.
Is there anything you got wrong early on that you now teach differently?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's so common to make those early career mistakes. I'm trying to think of a specific example. I think one thing that I assumed early on was that people are fairly health minded, because I
Okay,
am.
right.
So, like if I hear that something is bad for your health, let's say, in the US we have something called the Clean 15 and the Dirty Dozen when it comes to whether you should eat organic or not. Some fruit and vegetables it doesn't really matter. Like a banana, it's got this thick peel on it. It's not as important to buy organic as say a strawberry where all the seeds can become like little reservoirs for pesticides.
Yeah,
So I hear that and I think, okay, I'm going to eat organic, the ones that matter, and not worry about the ones that don't. But, a lot of people don't think that way. And so when I would tell people early on in my career, like this will hurt you. This could give you cancer. This is a reproductive toxin, those types of things. I've literally had people say, well, I've already had my kids, so why would I care if it's a reproductive toxin? And my thought is you're bringing it home to your family. It's in your vehicle. If it's on your
Mm.
clothes, you're tracking that all around. And so I learned you couldn't just say those types of things and expect people to care. Some people, you have to really talk about the end result, how these things get transferred, what it actually means to get some of these illnesses, or how it actually impacts your body. So that was surprising to me is that you have to put a little bit more effort into making people care about their own health.
Yeah, definitely. I didn't know that anyway either. That's gone quite deep, that actually. So you're saying the toxins that's carried in the seeds?
Well, the
Is that,
seeds can actually just like, because there's a little divot where the seeds are, is a little
yeah,
dip.
yeah.
Yeah, like pesticides can actually kind of collect there. So,
Okay.
like, that's why we wash our fruit, but like
Yeah, of course.
most people are just like doing a simple rinse and calling it good.
Yeah.
But in the US, especially with the type of pesticides we use, we have to be more careful than you might have to be across the pond
Ah,
because
right.
our
Okay.
produce gets a heavier treatment of pesticides than yours does in general.
Yes, I know that. Yes, yes. And yes, there's a lot of stuff that you put in your foods that are not that great to to
It's
to to keep them alive a little bit longer, I think.
Yeah,
Keep
it's
them,
really interesting as an American being in Europe for a while because the fruit tastes different and so do the vegetables for the most part.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I do love my fruit. Um, what I'm going to say now. So, if someone has to deliver training tomorrow, what are your top three rules?
I would say shorter is better.
Yep,
Nobody wants to listen to a 1 hour monologue.
yep.
So just take a little pressure off yourself there. Think about the actual outcomes you want. So let's say you're doing a construction job, you have to deliver a training about the basics of this job and the steps and what your outcomes are. I'd make three main points you want to make to that crowd, maximum. Most
Mhm.
adults can't walk away with more than that. If you overcomplicate it, nobody's going to get it. So, short, three learning objectives, and then I would think, what is the best possible way to illustrate what you're trying to say rather than explain it?
I totally agree. I totally agree with all that. Even to the point, so I used to have a lot of back problems. So I've been through loads of different physiotherapies, osteopaths, chiropractors, and my osteopath. They used to give me like 40 minutes worth of physio in the morning. And like, I never did that. No one's going to do 40 minutes of physio, but my
Yeah.
new one, she cut it down to like 5 minutes. So every day now, religiously, before I, literally as soon as I get up, do 5 minutes physio. It's bite sized and it's effective, compact, all the little things that actually work properly and work and make a difference. So that I know it's different, but it's the same.
Yeah. I mean, that 5 minutes that you'll actually do is a lot more effective than the 40 that you won't even start because it's too
Yeah.
overwhelming.
Yeah, exactly that. So good points, good points. So you mentioned the your keynote speech that you did. I actually watched that, and you brought up something about you mentioned preventative maintenance,
Yeah.
and it hit me because I don't see people maintaining their equipment as much as they used to. I remember when I was a kid, my dad used to say they used to have like a half day on a Friday because or they didn't work at all because they'd use that day for cleaning, repairs, and maintenance, and all the machinery. I don't really see that anymore.
Yeah, that's interesting that you don't see that and troubling too. But I would say that aligns with what I see too.
Right.
I feel like when I joined the workforce, some of the older members of the workforce that I met had more of a meticulous sort of approach.
Yeah.
And it was like, this is how we do it. We do the work, we take care of our equipment so that we can do the work again tomorrow. And
Yeah.
they all were mechanics at the same time. So they understood what they were working with. Now, what we're seeing more and more is the companies that sell the equipment want to be the mechanics of the equipment and they want to take that piece away. So it takes the ownership away from the people that are the operators. So instead of being like, I work in this machine every day of the week, I know it really well, I know the sounds it makes, I
Yeah.
can tell before some tech who comes out what's going on with it because I know what's normal with it.
Yeah.
Now there's not that sense of ownership. And so that's part of it. And then I also see just less and less of attention to detail with that. And really, as far as safety is concerned, if your preventative maintenance is good, your safety is generally good. So we really have to focus on both of those.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I mean, there are still people who do it. I mean, it is more the older generation, and I think like hire companies when you get rented machinery in, I think there's a little bit less care for those as well because you think, oh, so fuck it, they just send it back, they'll deal with it. But we used to be like that. I used to be a ground worker, and we never cleaned any of this stuff. So just thought well, they're going to clean it anyway. But I mean, I see a lot of people on LinkedIn that are really meticulous about it, just clean everything right down before they send it back, which is great. You know, look after your stuff. Oh, my crane cab, my cab is spotless all the time. I'm in there all day, but you get some people come in and you just think, how can you just sit in here with all this in it? Like, you know what I mean? So that's how they're looking after the machine. But yeah, I agree, totally agree. Um, I wonder why that is though. I wonder if it's production pressure or staffing or outsourcing or just the
I th
culture.
I think it's probably all of the above, but the people that I've seen that are really good at preventative maintenance, that take it more as a personal value than a directive from the company, it's because they've dealt with what goes wrong a lot of times and they're tired of
Yeah,
dealing with it.
yeah, makes sense. Makes sense,
Yeah.
definitely. I read a post somewhere from a safety guy who said when he walks onto a construction site, he can tell within 5 minutes whether the company or the principal contractor actually cares about safety or if they're just box ticking. Do you get that?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
100%. I think you can, and I think like for us in the US, our OSHA inspectors can as well, because there's a real difference in the attitude on site right away and how they
yeah,
manage everything from you coming on site to you can tell in the job trailers, you can tell in how like the equipment is maintained, you can tell in the attitude of the people working there. But I
yeah.
would also say once you're in safety a certain amount of time, you can tell probably in the first little while of safety orientation who's going to be a good employee and who's not as well.
Yeah, kind of like their energy that they're giving, I suppose, or their attitude.
Yeah. And it's a
Yeah,
balance. Like sometimes the people who are quiet in the back, where you're not sure if they're really absorbing it or not, they end up being pretty good. But sometimes the people who are the first to speak up and are overly involved in the training, it's like they start out with a bunch of energy and it dies out right away.
yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm just wondering. So in the UK, we have like a scoring system that affects the bidding contracts. You know, the better scoring you get, that often means that like fewer incidents means a higher score,
Yep.
and you're more likely to win a contract. Do you get that over there?
Yeah, we have a similar system. We have a couple different third-party rating systems that people use where they
Yeah.
keep track of your points and things like that. And you get an overall either score or number of points, depending on which system you use.
I think it's good, but I think it can also be problematic because I think it can discourage reporting incidents. I know of cases or people where they've had some major incidents and the company hasn't reported it because they don't want to lose that score, that safety score. Do you know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah, I definitely have seen that, and that's concerning. And what you run into is, with a small business, if you have a few minor incidents, it can actually put you out of business. So it kind of creates what we call a perverse incentive for the business to hide safety incidents so that they
Yeah.
can survive. Or like a big business, like you're talking about, they may be one step away from a really big contract, and this injury could mean it not happening. And so they'll kind
Yes.
of bury it. So yeah, it can have that effect. And I also find most of these systems, they're useful to a point, but it's a rating system based on metrics and not actually what's going on site.
Yeah.
So reality and the rating don't always match.
Exactly that. Exactly that. But I also think it's one of the many ways that accidentally train people to hide problems. You know, there are other ways, like people getting grilled or shamed for reporting incidents. The lesson there
Yeah.
becomes to keep your head down and shut up. Um, you've got incident reviews focus on who messed up rather than the failure in the system. Praise going to people who get the job done first and faster, regardless of how they do it, that sort of stuff. So I think there are many ways that companies, yeah, can accidentally train people to not report.
Yeah, totally. It was interesting too because a couple years ago in the United States, OSHA made it so that you couldn't provide incentives or rewards for going a certain number of days without an accident. And here in the US, it used to be like the classic safety thing. When you go into a factory or a business, you might see a sign that says, this company has worked 370 days without a lost time accident or something
Mm.
along those lines. But that's what that ended up doing is it just pushed reporting down.
Yeah,
So it ended up creating more problems than it solved in a lot of cases. And of course, like we want people to be proud of their safety records, but if you accidentally cut your hand and end up with stitches, you don't want to be ostracized by the company for it. Like this should be something that is a lesson learned that we can take and make improvements based on so it doesn't happen again.
absolutely, absolutely. You mentioned OSHA a couple of times. For my main audience is UK, so can you explain what OSHA is? I think it's sort of the equivalent to our HSE, yeah?
Yeah, it is. So OSHA is the Occupational Safety and Health Administration in the United States, and it's been
Yeah.
in place since 1972. The Nixon administration signed it in. So
Right.
OSHA is the officers that will come out and inspect your job site and issue fines, but they also do free consultations and training. So they do a lot of good, actually, but their reputation is kind of challenged because of the inspection part, because nobody wants their job site inspected.
Of course not. Of course. And I imagine you work closely with them, yeah?
I have before. I've never actually worked for them, but if you are a safety professional at a big job site, chances are they'll show up at some point and
Yeah.
you will collaborate with them. And, like last week, I was speaking at an OSHA sponsored conference.
Okay.
So, yeah, I'm fairly well versed in OSHA, know some of the inspectors locally and things like that. And they're all good
Yeah.
people.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, even here, the HSE people like, oh, they're coming in like everyone shits themselves and they're like all these big ogre people, but they are just human beings at the end of the day, aren't they? They are
They are
people.
totally. I'm always shocked when I talk to OSHA people here in the US about what they've seen in their careers. Because a
Yeah.
lot of times they've seen like really bad fatality scenes, they've seen really serious injuries, they've spoken to the families. And
Yeah.
so they have a real sense of purpose around what they do. And I feel like sometimes they don't get the credit for being as credible as they really are.
Yeah. I agree. I agree. We're almost there now with the main questions. We're doing well for time. So, one of the last three questions: what should a company stop doing immediately if they want trust?
Um, Anytime you're saying something you don't really mean.
Oh, yes. Oh,
Yeah.
do you know what? Yeah, I feel that. I do.
Yeah, I feel like that saying talk the talk and walk the walk. Like
Yeah.
you don't have to say what your values are if you are enacting them every single day. But if you say we care a lot about safety and then the owner won't wear a hard hat and safety glasses, mm,
Oh,
those types of things speak volumes to
just
everybody who's watching.
do you know what? I've been on some really, really well. They perceive themselves to be really safety conscious sites, right? Really strict about this, have all these procedures in place, but then I'll be up the crane and it will be windy, and I'll get a phone call from one of the managers. Oh, Jim, I know it's windy, but can you just lift this great big screen up? That's like got a big surface area, like to 100 meters in the air, because we need to get the guys working tomorrow to complete it. I'm like, yeah, but I'm winded off. But yeah, I know, but if you could just do that, it's like, well, which one is it? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
You just
let
lost
me
all
explain to
credibility there.
you. Yeah, this is how wind works.
Yeah,
Uh, And there's so many really scary crane incidents to cite in those
yeah.
cases too. Like I don't know if you've ever heard there was one in Minnesota where they tipped over the crane because they were operating on a windy day. Uh,
Yes, we've had a few of them over here actually. Yeah, when people don't realise how dangerous the wind can be, and they say things like, "Oh, can you lift in between gusts?" I'm like, "Yeah, if you spray the gusts red for me, so I can see them coming, no problem."
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that sort of thing where you have to fight to do the right thing
Yeah,
rather than management doing the right thing really shows a lot. And I will say, as an example, some of the bigger companies I've worked for, they would have moments when the CEO would do like a telecast or a broadcast out to everybody in the company throughout the United States. And the companies that actually care about safety, a lot of times that speech that they give actually starts with safety. So
Yeah.
it was a really tangible way of proving their values right up front. So they didn't start with, here are our profits, here's what we are looking to do as a company. They started with, here's our safety record and where we want to go with it.
Mm. Yeah. Good stuff. Good
Yeah.
stuff. Um, yeah. If you could change one thing about how companies communicate safety, what is it? So they talk about this safety thing, these speeches, about how they communicate it. What would you change on the
I,
broader
I
spectrum?
would put more into the hands of the employees.
Right.
Because I do think that safety does have to be top down and bottom up, but a lot of times the bottom up is the and.
Yeah.
So we are like the best sources of information are the people who are actually doing the work and the
Yeah.
people who are actually seeing things happen on a day-to-day basis. So if we can empower people to be part of safety committees, to be leadership at more of an employee level than main management and upper management levels, I think what we would see is more change and more employee developed policies and procedures, which would be more real world, more practical, and also probably more easily adopted because it's peer to peer.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. That makes sense. That makes sense. Last question.
Okay.
Well, last of the main questions. We're going to get onto the silly ones after. Um,
Okay.
oh no, that was it. Oh no. Yeah. Where should people go if they want more of your work?
Yeah, so check out allysafety.com. That's ALLY,
Yeah.
ally. And of course, check out our YouTube channel. That's the main way that people find out about us, but I'm on all the socials at Ally Safety.
Cool. Yeah. I'll leave all the links in the description for those for you. I think you're pretty well known. I'm not sure how well known you are over here, but I believe you're pretty well known over there. But you travel worldwide, don't you, to give talks and stuff?
Yeah, and I haven't gone to the UK for work, just for fun at this
Right.
point, but I need to make a
Okay.
trip over there at some point.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, I know you said you like sightseeing,
of course. Yeah.
Buckingham Palace and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
I love a good pub just as much.
Oh, do you? Okay. So
Yeah.
you like a pint.
Yeah.
Nice, nice. So we're going to get on to some nonsense questions now. Okay.
Okay.
Just a little bit of fun. I think I know this answer already. So your preferred choice of residence, is it a big city or the middle of nowhere?
Probably the middle of nowhere, but I will say I'm in a city right now.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. I'm in the suburbs, but I'm in Portland, Oregon.
Is that for what? Like ease for work, that sort of stuff?
Yeah, it's kind of, I've been out here for most of my adult life, and I always am saying I'm going to buy a house further out of town. It just hasn't happened yet. So
Right.
maybe one of these days.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Pancakes or waffles?
Waffles. I want
Well,
the syrup trapped.
really?
Yeah,
Waffles
I
all
think they're
day
so
long?
much better. Yeah.
What's stacked?
No, but I mean, like, I like a lot of butter. So
Right.
if you put a lot of butter and a lot of syrup on a waffle, it's going to contain all of that for you. Versus, like, you put it on a pancake, it's just going to run right off.
Nice. I like it. I like your style. Diner coffee or fancy coffee?
I would say fancy coffee. I'm a little bit of a coffee snob. I like
Uh,
really strong coffee.
oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
I've always a bit because there's so many coffees. I always get a bit confused. I'm not really a coffee drinker, but every now and again, when you just need it. So when I go into like, a coffee shop and they've got like 100 different coffees, and sometimes if they're too strong, they make me feel really sick, and I just start getting into panic mode. I don't know what to do. I don't know what do I order. And I don't want to say, look, oh, what one shall I have? A little bit creamy, not too strong. So I end up getting something that's disgusting and feeling sick and not drinking it.
Yeah, that's a terrible outcome. I mean,
Yeah.
really, ultimately, probably the best thing they can do is just brew a good cup of coffee and let us mix in the cream and sugar on our own.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. Yeah, definitely, definitely. Worst filming moment that you've had, dead battery or versus full storage card, which is more painful?
Oh man, I hate the full storage card because a battery can be recharged, but we can be out in the middle of nowhere sometimes. And if we have, I mean, if we have an empty storage card, sometimes it'd be 2 hours to go to town and get another one. So we're either deleting stuff
Yeah,
or we're going to town.
yeah, missions, yeah. Would you rather lose all your footage at the end of the day or realize you filmed the whole thing out of focus?
Mm. Either way, you're redoing it is the tough part.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I would rather probably lose all of it because then it's just a clean, we know we have to redo this.
Yeah, yeah,
And if
yeah,
it's
yeah.
all out of focus, we'd probably go through all of it and really hope to find something and it wouldn't
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah, I get that. I get that. Last one now. Would you rather have a permanent high vis tan line or a or a permanent hard hat hair dent?
High vis tan line.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I suppose you could hide that, couldn't you?
Yeah, because the hard hat hair dent is going to be on me every day wherever I
Yeah.
go. I can't get away from that.
Do you get them though? The hair
I
dent?
do, especially because I've got a fringe. And
Yeah.
so, like, yeah, it comes on right here on my forehead. It's pretty bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's those done. So I did say to you, we didn't get time to do these knots and questions, to think of a question to ask me. And I was
Yeah.
hoping that we wouldn't have time because I didn't want to have to ask the question. But while we're there, you might as well ask away.
Yeah. I was curious. I wanted to ask you what your first day on a construction site was like for you.
Wow, all that time ago. First day on a
Like two,
construction.
3 years, right?
No, yeah, I wish I've been in construction about 25 years now. So I don't think I can remember. I'll tell you, so when I became a crane operator, I'll tell you the first day that when I became crane operator, what that was like. Um so I was quite confident when I was training, probably a little bit overconfident, to be honest. Like, I got too confident once and smashed the block into the warehouse, into the bunker that we was training against.
Oh no.
Um, so I thought, oh yeah, I'm the nuts. I can do this. I'm good. But when I got onto site, and there's nothing like any sites that I've ever worked on before. These sites are massive. You could have like 1,000 people on them, and it's just like,
Wow.
oh my God, it's just like overwhelming. And they wanted me to, um, they wanted me to concrete something with a concrete skip. So along this footing that just went on for ages, like this maze of footing. I'm just thinking, oh my God, there's so many controls I need to do now. I don't know how I'm going to do this. So I was really scared. I was really,
Yeah,
really
that's
scared.
kind of a tricky one to start you out on.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was scared, and I was on the busiest crane, and it was so much pressure. And I was just thinking, I just can't wait to get off this job. This is no good. But sometimes they're the good ones to sort of get you stuck into. They can't be thrown in the deep end. Oh, and yeah, one of the next ones that was the same, but one of the crane supervisors, he was a real bully, and he used to shout at everyone, scream at everyone, and it was really busy, busy, busy job. But I had good guys working with me, like the crane operators, and I ended up falling out of him. Like, we had it out, which was needed. But again, that kind of, it's character building. It puts you sort of like, it gets you used to the bad situations that you might have to deal with. Um,
Yeah.
I think. But yeah, my first construction site, I don't know, it was probably when I was when I was a kid. I remember one time when I was a landscaper, who was doing his front garden, and I chipped this lady's coping stone. It was like um it's like, I can't remember what material it was, but I chipped the corner of it off, and she came. I tried to sort of like scarp her off without anyone noticing, but she obviously saw it
Oh
and
no.
had a go at me and called me a clown. So I've never been called a clown before, and that was quite funny.
Yeah. It's funny now. That day it probably sucked.
Well, I wasn't that bothered. No, I just, I wouldn't see her ever again. So I left the site, and that was it.
Yeah, it's interesting to me hearing you tell your story about your early crane experiences too, because I think we always look at the Brits as more civilized than us in the US. And
Right.
we have the same things. Like this guy's a shouter, he's gonna yell at you. Like, are you gonna yell back, and kind of stand up to him, or how are you
Yeah.
gonna handle it? And there's always those questions. And I think the first couple times I dealt with that was really hard.
Was
And then
it? Yeah.
after that, it got a lot easier.
Yeah. I think it's probably a little bit different being a woman as well, isn't it? I think, do you find it was a little bit more intimidating, or did you find that you had to put on a little bit of front, as if to say, you're not going to mess with me? Did you find any of that?
Yeah, I did. I think especially when you're younger in the industry, it kind of goes two
Yeah.
ways. Like you do have to put on that front that you're not going to mess with me, But the guys who are bullies will definitely try. And the
Yeah,
guys who are genuinely kind and nice people, they'll kind of see you as sort of a daughter sometimes, and they'll be
yeah,
nicer to you because of it. So you get
yeah,
some good and some bad. But either way, like walking that straight line of being seen as a credible professional is is not really one side or the other. It's in the middle. So that's where it's got to be usually for me.
yeah. And I think it's quite important how you deal with it as well, because I don't think it's great to lose your shit, um, which is what I kind of did that time, and I was quite angry with myself afterwards that I handled it in that way. Because he said, I thought he was going to punch me, like when we sort of after a couple of weeks, and I don't like getting to that stage. I'm really placid person. It takes a lot to to ride me like that. But I think it's important to be quite authoritative and assertive, but not go down to their level, if you know what I mean,
Yeah.
because you kind of lost then, haven't you?
Yeah, I have always heard this one phrase that sticks with me, and it's like the calmest person wins.
Yes.
And that has proven true quite a few times in my life, that the one who can keep a cool head and who can be assertive but not aggressive
Yeah.
generally is the more credible person in the long term too.
Yeah. I watched. Do you know John Tay Wilder? You into boxing?
No, I don't.
No, so he's one of your boxers, and he's come over here to fight one of our guys, and we have this media guy called Simon Jordan, and he's quite arrogant, but he's not scared of anybody. He's quite provocative, and he asks the questions that needs asking. And Deontay didn't want those questions asked, and he just exploded and acted like a big baby. And I just thought you just made yourself look like a Bryce Pratt here. If you'd have said what you had to say, but calmly, but you have that intentions, like, don't fuck with me, but you with calmness in your eyes, and it resonates. People can feel it, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think so too. And I notice when I am in more that state, the way that people respond is different. But
yeah,
when I'm in a state where maybe I'm just showing up being friendly and nice and not thinking, don't
yeah,
mess with me, or not thinking assertively at all, I think
yeah,
people do try more. You know what I
yeah,
mean? They'll just push you a little bit to see how you respond more often.
definitely, definitely. Well, it's like that saying, isn't it? Don't mistake my kindness for weakness.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, we are done now. Thank you so much. We got it all in. We got the little bonus question in. I'll let you get back to your life now. Thanks for your time. And hopefully we can do it again one day, probably for the other podcast that I host for another company. Would you ever be up for that?
Yeah, that would be great. I really enjoyed it. Thanks for having me.
Cool. And the safety. So yeah, I spoke earlier about the safety videos. So they're all done. So
Oh, nice.
I'm going to be sending them over probably straight after this
That's
for you
super exciting.
to look
Okay.
at. Okay.
Very good. Yeah.
Nice. Nice. Well, take it easy. Keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, I will. I appreciate it.
Nice one. See you then.
See ya.